It's a pleasure to be standing up here and not sitting back there. The AV team are rock stars. I don't know if you realize that everybody here is a volunteer, but the AV team, when they volunteer, it's 15, 17-hour days for the week leading up to actually starting the conference. So they're super committed. So if you're looking for a cool group to volunteer with in future, go and see them at the back. And if you're another volunteer at NorthSec, and I've been here, because I've been here for like 7 years or something, and I haven't said hello to you, it's not you. I usually listen. I don't often speak. The only reason I'm up here is because people have been saying dumb stuff on the internet, and I feel like I need some people to help me out. So this presentation will kind of be in two parts. The first part will be to give you some background so that you can help me persuade other people to stop saying dumb stuff on the internet. And then the second part will be some research that I've been working on for about 2 years that no one else has seen yet. And because I like NorthSec so much, I decided I would bring it here first. So let's get on the same page here, because we're talking about phishing and phishing simulations. What are phishing simulations in your mind? So I want you to lock it in yourself. Is it A, a tool for assessing training effectiveness? B, a tool for providing an experiential training? C, a useless compliance headache? Or D, just hilarious? Yep, so lock it in yourself, make sure you have it. The answer is all of the above, but if it's C, we should probably talk after. Okay, step 1, establish rapport with audience with humor. Correct. Step 2, establish dominance by means of authority. Okay, so I'm the executive director of the Human-Centric Cybersecurity Partnership. We're a group of, we're a federally funded research partnership that works with government organizations. So we have ICED, Defense, Public Safety as our partnership. We have about 50 researchers from Canadian and international universities, all working on different aspects of cybersecurity from a human and social sciences perspective. I've been running the Cybercrimeology podcast for about 4 years. We have over 115 different people who have been interviewed talking about research into cybercrime and cybersecurity. I recommend you go and check it out. It's a good resource. You might find something on there that you like. And I also run the SecRev conference, which has been running for 8 years. Each year we start at 0 UTC, and then we live stream for 24 hours, connecting to friends and universities across the world, sort of handing the baton across. It's a design of conference that makes sure that we are diverse in the content that we present. So in order to run that conference, we have to connect with groups from different countries in order to make it work. I'd also like to, the research that I'm doing is part of my PhD at the University of Montreal. I'm part of the cybercrime prevention lab. And I want to thank Beauceron Security because they have a real commitment to science. They provided me with the data that enabled the research that we're going to talk about later. I met Dave from Beauceron at B-Sides in Montreal years ago. He expressed a commitment to science. And then basically they gave me the data and said, have at it, which is wonderful. So more people should be like Dave. Okay, who has heard of the Dunning-Kruger effect? Yeah, this is research that was done 25 years ago. It became a lot more interesting to people in about 2016 for some reason. I'm not entirely sure. But it sort of talks about people's perceptions of their own abilities. So for the people in this room, we're kind of specialized, right? There's a group of people who are probably more specialized around topics to do with STEM and security. You'd probably put yourself in this group. That means you have a good understanding of these topics. These are the things that you know well, and you will be able to appreciate your own competence in these areas quite well, very accurately. There are a different set of topics which might be outside of that. So, because of specialization, you spend a lot more time on STEM subjects and less time on these other subjects, so your abilities in that might be a little bit lower. Because of that, though, you might rate your ability higher than it actually is when it comes to things about society, humanity, people's behavior, the way that social interactions work. The other aspect of this is you might rate people's understanding of science as higher than it actually is. So experts in an area tend to overrate the abilities of novices in an area. What this means for us is we are entirely unqualified as a group of people to talk about what normal people do when it comes to cybersecurity. We cannot make good subjective assessments of what normal people see when it comes to cybersecurity because of this reason. We overestimate our ability to understand them, and we overestimate their ability to understand us. So let's try and do away with the subjective assessments of what cybersecurity means for people who aren't cybersecurity experts. The other thing that I hear is that technology is going to solve this problem for us. So to try and give an idea of why this might not be the case, we'll look at a related technology. This is a technology called the knife. Now, you might be looking at that and saying that that's not a knife. I assure you, this is a knife. This knife has been around for about 3.6 million years. So we have had knife technology for longer than we have had Homo sapiens. It's been around a good long while. However, we still have accidents with knives. So we have over 1,000 injuries per day with knives in the United States. So you might say, well, that's the United States. People getting injured with knives in the United States is probably something that happens a lot. But you have to remember, these are people who have presented to hospitals in the United States. So that's going to bring the number down again. If you are suggesting that we can somehow engineer technology, any technology, to be entirely safe, we haven't managed to do it with knives yet. There are probably some technologies that this is not possible. I think computer-mediated communications is also one of those technologies. We've had computer security since about 1967. We haven't made too much headway on these kinds of problems yet. It might be a while longer. Some people suggest we should just look to other fields, operational health and safety, things like that. They have mechanisms for solving problems, and they kind of do, actually. They have a way of integrating human solutions and technology solutions into a framework. So you have a human solution at the top. We can just get rid of a technology and use a different not use that kind of technology at all. It's not safe, we just don't use it. We could substitute it with a different technology. So that's a technological solution. We have to invent a secure version of something, a safe version of something. My apologies if you struggle to read this. That's engineering controls. That's also a technology solution. We could build guards or safeguards or measures into a technology that makes it safer to operate. Things to stop you putting your hands into the cutty bit is one of the technologies that we use there. We could use administrative controls. We could train people how to use the technology more safely. That's another thing that we could do. Or we could just place all of the responsibility on the user and say you should use personal protective equipment. But that's another technology we have to develop as well. So there is a way of doing that outside of cybersecurity that's quite well developed, but it still requires that we develop the human solutions. Lastly, humans are probably higher in the table of importance when it comes to operating a business than security. So human resources is a big part of most organizations. The technology services the human resources, the security services the technology. So if you're coming up with security solutions that require humans to not be humans anymore, this is probably going to be a problem when you implement things, because as far as the organization is concerned, they're at a different level of hierarchy. If you are one of the people who go around saying that humans are the weakest link in cybersecurity, you're kind of right, but you're right in that cybersecurity is weakest at dealing with humans. Let's not blame the people. Let's start looking at the things that we can change. So very quickly, how do we understand humans? So I've got 5 general rules drawn from a whole bunch of different scientific disciplines. The first one to consider is that people think efficiently. We have evolved not to spend too many calories using thinking when we don't need to. You might like to suggest that people are lazy, but that's not the case. They are efficient. They only think about things when they absolutely need to. If there is a low-calorie way of dealing with a situation, we have evolved to do that. Secondly, we make do. We do not optimize when we make decisions. We do a thing called satisficing, where we find the first solution that will work for us, and we just go with that one. If you think that people optimize, next time you go to the supermarket when you're hungry and you want lunch, I would like you to consider how many possible combinations of foods that you could consider to find the optimal outcome for lunch, and then realize that you'll probably die of starvation before you find the solution to that particular problem. So people make do, they satisfice when it comes to decision making. We think dualistically. We have two systems of thinking that run at the same time. If you've read Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow, that's a good introduction to this. But those two systems run in parallel all of the time. We have an automatic decision-making process that is easy, low-calorie, works very well for us. We make snap decisions. And then we have a controlled cognitive process that is the one that we think of as thinking when we're thinking. These two things work in tandem, and we can use both of them. We learn imperfectly. We don't get to choose what we learn. You can't patch people. You can't tell them to learn this and have them just learn it and remember it forever. We forget. The context surrounding the learning influences how durable that learning is. And lastly, we all have bodies. This separates us from artificial intelligence in a fairly large way. Our bodies react to our environment. We are bags of liquids and hormones and electricity and nerves, and it changes in reaction to the environment. The decision maker at 2 a.m. is not the same decision maker at 2 p.m. If you feel like last night in the middle of the party you were making the same kind of decisions as you were making this morning, I would suggest that perhaps there are a few differences. So we should be aware that humans do all of these things. And if we are treating people as if they are machines, not considering these things, we might have some problems. The best AV team in the world. So we're going to move on to the next part now, where I introduce some research that I've been doing with the data from Beauceron, which is, it's interesting in that a study like this hasn't really been done before. Studies have been done within organizations, but not necessarily across organizations. So this gives us the ability to look at a broader and more generalizable group than any scientific research has really looked at before. And when I say science, I mean I'm looking for solutions that don't just solve one problem, that are generalizable, that will enable a lot of people to make predictions about what might happen in their circumstance. So, does cybersecurity awareness work? Let's look at cybersecurity awareness as a first pass. This is kind of what the basis of what we were talking about earlier. Does cybersecurity awareness training work? Let's test that with phishing. And let's look at Cybersecurity Awareness Month. If you're not aware, Cybersecurity Awareness Month is something that happens in countries all over the world. It happens in Canada. It's been happening here since about 2012. The federal government runs an awareness program, and they work with organizations across Canada to try and increase the amount of awareness raising that happens during the month of October. So you all spend money on this. Does it actually do anything? So by analyzing the data from across Canada, we have more than 500 organizations involved in 2023, more than 700 in 2024. We're analyzing the results of more than 250,000 phishing simulations across this entire data set. I'm going to talk about the phishing emails as the subject of a lot of this, because I think that looking at people leads us to try and find the minority who are clicking at things, and singling out a minority to say bad stuff about them is not cool, so we're not going to do that. So in terms of the number of phishing email simulations sent, it increases during October. So Fancy maths happen in the background. There's some Bayesian statistics. We can say that these are within a credible interval of result, blah, 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 or of the cool statistician stuff. If you want to learn about the maths and then teach me about it, we can talk later, because maths is not something I love. But it increases by 13% in 2023, 23% in 2024. So we can say confidently that organizations respond to Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So that's good. The phishing click rate decreases within that time period. So it drops by 12 or 11%. That means that people are clicking on less phishing during that time period. So the awareness materials that are going out are doing something to reduce people's susceptibility to phishing. They are clicking on less stuff. So these are reports of not simulated phishing. These are reports of actual phishing emails that have made it through all of the other filtration systems. They have increased by 16% and 6%. The thing to keep in mind here is we don't know how many phishing emails were sent during this period. The criminals are not being very cooperative and giving us a total. I would suggest for practical reasons that they aren't holding back capacity and then increasing the amount of phishing emails that they're sending in October, that it might be sort of the max that they can do year round. The other thing we don't know is, have the technical controls improved in effectiveness over this time? So we don't know. But what we can say is that people report more phishing during Cybersecurity Awareness Month than they do in other months of the year. Phishing simulation reporting, however, drops. People report less phishing simulations during this period. And this is interesting because it means that phishing reporting and phishing are treated somewhat differently by people in organizations across Canada. This gives us the idea that there might be something going on with reporting that means that it's not just the positive flip side of clicking. So what have we learned here? Awareness Month works. It is effective. However, it's effective for 1 month. So what we might be seeing here is awareness as in vigilance. The awareness raising might be heightened awareness rather than education awareness. We're not necessarily taking people from knowing nothing to knowing something, and now they're able to operate at a new level. What we're doing is we're making them aware of something. It is remaining in their mind. They have heightened awareness for this period while we're making them aware, and then after we stop doing that, it drops down again. The other thing we're learning is that reporting is perhaps a canary in the coal mine for us. It's telling us something is going on, and maybe people are getting what's called cybersecurity fatigue. The amount of awareness material they're getting is making them less engaged with cybersecurity because they're just getting tired of it. They don't want to see that stuff anymore. So they realize that these are phishing simulation emails. They just ignore them rather than reporting them. They're not as excited about the whole cybersecurity thing. So Cybersecurity Awareness Month, it works. So we should do awareness. How often should we do it, though? How often should we run our education campaigns? How quickly does it take people to become less heightened in their awareness? How long does it take them to forget things? So we're going to look at some figures now, but the first thing I want you to realize is we're not looking at a great deal of people here. We're not looking at a great deal of emails. Of all of the phishing email sent, the grand majority are ignored, and that makes sense to us because we know that people are efficient. Clicking report or clicking on a phishing email link is more effort than doing nothing. So it makes sense that people would generally do nothing because that is the most efficient way to deal with phishing. It's probably not great for us, but it's the most efficient way to do it, and humans do those things. So of these, 3.6% of emails got clicked on. It's not a grand percentage of people, I can tell you. I did look at those figures as well. It's not a huge amount. So when we're talking in the next 2 slides, we're looking at 28% of the emails and 3.6% of the emails. So when it comes to report interactions, this is the amount of time after receiving training that people are likely to report again. So this is a probability calculation. The points along the bottom are intervals of a month. So immediately after receiving training on phishing, there's a 98% chance that the people who are going to report will report. It's a small chance that they will just not Something happens, they get distracted, they go and get a cup of coffee, Jane from accounting comes over while they're looking at it. Stuff happens. Life is life. But as time goes on, the probability that they will report decreases. At the far end, we have 360 days, which is about a year. So if you are doing your training once a year, there's a probability drop-off for reporting that is quite large. Now, this is mathematics, it's not necessarily the real world, but we can see that there's something happening there that we should probably pay attention to. In terms of clicking, of the people who click, if you provide people training and a phishing simulation email right after the training, of that 3.6% of people who clicked, there is 3.5% of people who will just click immediately after receiving training. That's the upper limit. Again, life is life. Maybe someone came over, you weren't paying attention, you sneezed while you were looking at the email and accidentally clicked on it. Who knows? It's a very small amount, though. Over time, though, and these are, again, monthly intervals, that increases. So if you're doing your phishing training once a year, by the end of that year period, that awareness may have decayed to an extent that it's not really doing very much at all. What does this mean for us, though? How does that change how we think about phishing? Well, when people say, how often should you train, and somebody else says depends, now we know what it depends on. It depends on our risk appetite. How happy are we to have people decay to a certain extent? Where are we comfortable on that curve? Do we need them to be as good as they can be? Should we be training them once a month? Or we don't mind if they drop off to about 15%, in which case, once every 3 months is probably fine. Or for our organization, it doesn't really matter. We'll just do it once a year for compliance, and we'll let it drop all the way off before it comes back again. Also, there is an upper limit. If you go to a conference and someone talks to you in absolutes about phishing, they say, until we can prevent 100%, it's not effective. There is no 100% when it comes to people. In the best scenario here, we still had 3.5% of the people who were clicking immediately after doing their training. Life is life. You cannot have 100% when it comes to people. This is why the p-value is set at 95 for most social science stuff. It's just there's an element that you can't entirely control. And finally, don't forget about the fatigue thing. So we learned from the previous research that there is an element of fatigue that might kick in at some point. If you're going to start training people every day to try and keep them at the maximum, there might be some other effects that start kicking in, and you could start losing people in ways that you didn't anticipate. So we talked about people are not the same at 2 a.m. as they are at 2 p.m. So when is cybersecurity awareness a problem for us? So let's look at the time of day and the day of the week in terms of phishing. What impact does time have on people when it comes to phishing? And in terms of companies sending phishing simulation emails, they're pretty consistent. So we're looking just at 2024 when it comes to this data. So this is 700 organizations across Canada. This is organizations between 20 employees and 100,000 employees. So we took out the really, really big ones and the really, really small ones. So this is a good general view of most companies in Canada. And companies are pretty consistent when it comes to sending email. They send it most days of the week. You can see there's a little bit less on Saturday, down to about 200,000 emails across Canada, up to about a little bit over 300,000 emails, but it doesn't vary too much. A little bit less on the weekends, pretty consistent throughout the week. So of those phishing emails, when do people click on them? Monday morning. People click on phishing emails on Monday morning. The majority of clicks happen in the morning and not the afternoon. 58% of clicks across the entire week happen in the morning. 15% of all clicks happen on Monday mornings. And between 8 and 9 a.m. on a Monday morning, 4% of all clicks happen just within that 1 hour. Something is happening on Monday morning. I don't know what's happening at 2 a.m. on a Sunday night. No answers for that. But something's happening on Monday morning. So we can probably agree from this heat map that Monday morning there's a thing happening. In terms of reporting, it's pretty similar. Something happening on Monday morning, not much happening on the weekends. So why might this be? What is going on with Monday mornings? What do we think? We're starting to develop some kind of assessments. Did we remember early on that our subjective assessments are not very good and we should try and rely on objective data more than the subjective stuff? First suggestion, is it just Mondays? Is there a Blue Monday thing happening? Are we all Garfield in actual fact? We love lasagna and we hate Monday mornings? No, it's not that. We tested public holiday mornings from Monday against regular Mondays, and holiday Mondays do not have the same effect. So the amount of reporting that happens on a holiday Monday versus a regular Monday is down by 81%, and the amount of clicking that happens on a holiday Monday versus a normal Monday is down by 40%. So it's not just that it's Monday. It's just not the name of the day that's causing this effect. It's something else. Also, reporting and clicking is different. People who report emails, they're not working, something's going on there. I don't know for sure, but it's different again, so we should keep that in mind when we're looking at our reporting data versus our clicking data. Let's learn a little bit more about this. So I've applied survival analysis. This is the kind of analysis that's usually done for life expectancy. I've effectively treated each of our phishing simulation emails as if they have cancer, and we're going to work out how long it takes them to die by clicking. So we can see that generally, most things that are going to get clicked on pretty quickly. So there's quite a steep drop-off very early. These intervals are the period of 1 day, so most things get clicked pretty quickly during the day. The different colors are the day that they were sent. So the ones that were sent Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, they all drop off quite quickly. The ones that were sent on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, their rate of death is substantially slower. You can see that there's a different kind of gradient for each of those. Depending on which day they were sent, they drop off more steeply at a different time. So we're starting to get an idea of what's going on. When it comes to reporting, again, different, but fairly similar in that we have Friday, Saturday, Sunday dropping off at a different kind of rate than the ones that are sent during the middle of the week. The other thing that I want to note that's interesting here, so if we go back one slide, most phishing emails that are going to get clicked on within 2 weeks. There's none after 250 hours, but most of them are gone after 7 days' time. Reported emails, it's 2 weeks, it's much longer. If you know people who are keeping phishing emails around in their inbox so that they can come back and report them 2 weeks later, could I talk to them, please? Because I have no idea what that's about. Okay, so what have we learned there? What we have here is a thing that we might call routine concentrated risk. People's lifestyles contribute to a change in the amount of risk that the organization faces at different times of the week. This is not susceptibility. If you are listening to a presentation and somebody says that people's susceptibility changes at different times throughout the day, I encourage you to engage your safety squints, because there's no way of actually working that out. You can't tell when people looked at a phishing email by the kinds of data that is gathered by the system. But what we can say is for the organization, more people are clicking on things, and it may be because they've just been gathering the emails in their inbox, they haven't opened their email all weekend, and then on Monday morning they catch up on all of the emails that are sitting there over the weekend. What does that mean for us? Well, maybe people aren't more susceptible at this time, but there are more clicks happening. So we could do things to deal with that. We could rescan inboxes just before they come in and check their email, just to see if the links have changed to something malicious, give us an extra chance at that. We could create a company-wide policy saying no meetings until 10 a.m. on a Monday morning to give people more time to deal with the extra phishing emails that they might have. Or we could rate delay the emails that they get on a Monday morning so that our security team doesn't get all of their phishing links clicked on all at the same time. So we could be kinder to our SOC. So what have we learned in the presentation? We have learned that knowledge awareness and heightened awareness are not necessarily the same thing. We're doing two things when we're doing awareness. We're educating people, but we're also raising their awareness for a period of time, and that will drop off again. That when we do our awareness, we need to tune it to our risk appetite. The amount of times that we train people, it's got more to do with who we are as a company and what our appetite for risk is than it does with some absolute group of people who always click on things. And the last thing is, there is such thing as routine-focused risk. So we need to understand that that happens so that we can develop policies and procedures that help us deal with that risk if we need to. So I hope you've learned something. I hope you've changed the way that you think about phishing. I hope you've started to think about phishing in a different kind of way. I encourage you to reach out to me if you want to have a talk to me. If you are interested in helping us learn more about these kinds of phishing, trust me, I've got a laundry list of questions and I don't have all of the kinds of data I need to answer them. Please reach out. And if you are here and you're interested in science and you have resources within your organization, talk to other people. Dave from Beauceron did that with me at another conference in Montreal, and now we're doing some really cool, interesting science. So everyone be like Dave, everyone loves science, and thank you all for your time.